Wow. Good evening, good afternoon to those of you on the West Coast. My name is Cheryl Cook and I'm CEO of Avoda. Welcome to Avoda's 2020-2021 Service Corps graduation. So that is an incredible act to follow. You just heard from Marnie Loftman, a DC Corps member from last year, and Eitan Cantor on the violin. Marnie and Eitan, thank you for sharing your incredible musical talent with all of us. And you're going to hear more from our amazing community this evening as well. I am so excited for graduation tonight. I'm incredibly proud of all of you, our amazing, wonderful, passionate, caring, and hardworking Corps members. Congratulations, Kol HaKavod. This has been an incredibly challenging year for the world, for the country, for all of us. We've lived through a pandemic that's still raging. We've lived through a racial awakening, for some for the first time, for many of us, really exciting to see in some parts of our country. We have lived through a contentious election on our shores with dog whistles of racism, anti-Semitism, and more. And we've lived through an attempted insurrection on our Capitol. And there's so many people in the face of all of this and more who have stepped back this year. But you chose to step forward. You chose to spend the year with Avoda, to step into a role at some incredible organizations that work with the most vulnerable in our society who have been especially hard hit by this year. You showed up, even when that work happened from your couches, even when that work happened at crowded dining room tables with headphones on, so you could work in a room with 5 other people working beside you. You showed up in masks, in person, doing direct service, and listening to the experiences of some of the hardest hit communities in our country. You did the work, and you showed up for the communities and people who needed it most. This alone is a great feat, doing this difficult work and doing it in difficult times. But I've been blown away by how often I heard that you were also going above and beyond. I know that in the New Orleans fight, for example, you prepared 100 meals every 2 weeks for unhoused people in the city, which was done outside of your work at placements and Avoda's regularly scheduled programming. The Corps members in DC, you found free time to travel to Pennsylvania on our historical election day to serve as voter guardians for those who might have faced intimidation at the polls. I could go on and on. There's so many examples. You, our Corps members, have lived and breathed justice work. And this year you've lived out justice at your jobs, during conversations around your dinner tables, at Avoda programs, and also when you somehow found free time in between. And we've invested in you and all those who came before you and will come after you, because we believe that you can't create real social change without real proximity to the issues you're trying to address. Avoda's work is really based on the premise of one of my heroes, that one of my heroes talks about, Bryan Stevenson. We cannot make good decisions from a distance. Bryan Stevenson is a public interest lawyer who has dedicated his career to a lot of wonderful things, including working with people on death row. And he talks about the importance of proximity to suffering. So I'm going to borrow his words for a minute. This is my challenge to you. We need to embrace need. We need to get closer to the problem. Human beings have the capacity, when we get close, of finding our way to justice. When we get close, we hear things that can't be heard from afar. We see things that can't be seen. And sometimes that makes the difference between acting justly and unjustly. We've invested in you because we see you as some of our future leaders in this work. And like Stevenson, at Avoda, we believe it's crucial for our leaders and our future leaders to get proximate. We need thoughtful leaders who can bring creativity to bear on our country's challenges, who can listen to the voices of those who are most vulnerable and really hear what they're saying. Can you imagine how different it would be if all of our politicians, all of our not-for-profit leaders, all of our philanthropists, all of us spent a year doing the kind of work you've done this year? What kind of country could we have? What kind of leaders would we have? How could the analysis around solutions change? So I want to honor you for showing up, for living your values, for witnessing what does and does not work about our systems, and striving to improve those systems in whatever way you can. It's clear to me that this group of people in front of me virtually embody these values, and that we're going to continue to see you show up throughout your lives. I also hope, and we all hope, that this program, participating in Avodah, we're giving you us, a community, a place, and people who can lift you up when you feel depleted. Because as you all will know, this work can deplete you. You're part of a community that I hope will remind you about why justice work is important. And will also remind you that this work is fun and energizing and filled with joy. And in that way, our commitment to you is that graduation is not the end of Avodah for you. I know, surprise. We're here for you, along with 1,400 other Avodanics who you will soon learn are here for you as well. So I want to thank everyone in the room for being here with us and celebrating today. The friends, families, supporters, placement organizations who fuel this work, thank you. I appreciate your being here for the 74 amazing young people, young leaders, and I thank you for being part of a community so deeply committed to change. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Rabbi Esther Letterman, who's going to deliver an invocation and share some Torah with our core members. Esther is not only an incredible director of congregational innovation at the Union for Reform Judaism, but she's also the chair of Avodah's DC Advisory Council and an amazing rabbi and friend. Esther, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Hopefully you can hear me. One of the side effects of the emergence is the getting of colds now from children. So it is an honor. It is really an honor to be with all of you and to see all these incredible faces from across the country. So I want to offer you this. I'm speaking to all of the Avodanics in particular, although I know your family and friends will soak this up as well. So allow me to begin this blessing. So I want to begin, before I dive into it, I also want to begin that I'm calling in from Washington, D.C., and I want to acknowledge that that is the ancestral lands of the Anacostan, Piscataway, and Pamunkey peoples. Daughter of man, son of woman, people of divine light, what do you do with your gifts? How do you use your radiance and your might, your intellect and your passion? Do you leave them buried within, untouched and unused? Or do you pursue justice and healing, charity and consolation? Come, you children of God, you witnesses of wonder and awe. There are miracles inside you, holy gifts of communion and grace that yearn to burst forth in celebration of God's holy name. Answer the call to divine service, then your lives will become a blessing, a well, a love, a source of splendor, abundant in joy and courage. Blessed are you, source of miraculous gifts. You rejoice in deeds of the heart. These are the words of Alden Salavi. Chaverim Yekarim, beloved friends, we're gathered here tonight in our Zoom boxes and in our batim, our communal homes from New York to Chicago, New Orleans, and Washington, D.C., and all the great cities, towns, and expanses of this country in between, to celebrate, to say goodbye, and to pass through another door. We gather to celebrate, to mark the impact of your work, to bless the hands and the hearts and the souls of you, our beloved core members, that engaged all year in acts of justice and righteousness, who lived out the calling of the prophet Micah to act with justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. So I invite you for a moment to join me in August of 2020. Do you remember where you were? Try and picture it. Arriving in unfamiliar cities, negative COVID tests packed in with your clothing, meeting fellow travelers for the very first time. each one of you called with your own version of Lech Lecha, that ancient call of go forth unto yourself to a new land. And in the midst of this pandemic, out of the mixed multitude, you formed a sanctuary in the wilderness. Asuli mikdash v'shachanti betocham, the ancient scripture teaches. Build for me a sanctuary, and I, God, the ultimate I of the universe, will dwell in you. And so you built together your homes out of words and meals and laughter and birthdays and dialogue and learning, and out of tears at the brokenness of this world, and out of triumphs at the way healing can be wrought out of determination and power. A sacred community it was, and a sacred community it will always be. Tonight, we have arrived at another kind of moment, a moment that we might imagine as a separation. So I call upon the ritual of Havdalah, often associated with the end of the Sabbath, as a way to mark the separation of time between the year now ending and the new possibilities you are each facing. We begin with wine, a symbol of joy and celebration. For after all, this is what this moment is, a chance to celebrate you all individually and collectively, for what you have accomplished and achieved, for the people you worked with and the battles you fought, so that this great country can live up to its not yet fulfilled promises. So we honor you and we honor God as we say this blessing over wine and celebrate this joy and simcha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of all life, creator of the fruit of the vine. We continue with spices. At the end of Shabbat, we traditionally inhale the sweet aroma as our souls are sad to say goodbye to the beauty of the day of rest. So too tonight, do we also need to invigorate our souls as we say goodbye to this year, to the community you've come to know and build, and make space for it to become something new. So we say this blessing, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei besamim. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of all life, creator of spices. And we say amen. The third element is fire. So this requires a little bit more from me because I did not want the burning fire to be in my hands until this moment. So and if you're good with imagination, I invite you to imagine if we were standing together, lists sort of sitting at the center of what we're trying to do. So the third element of Havdalah is fire, a remembrance of creation. In the book of Genesis, we read, Vayomer Elohim v'yehi or, vayehi or. Vayar Elohim et haor kitov. God said, let there be light, and there was light. God saw that the light was good. And so we light our candle tonight to remember the fire for justice that brought you here, for the burning desire you each have to do good in this world, and to let that fire burn even brighter as you move forward to that next moment. And remembering that that light inside of you and that light you bring to the world, it is indeed good. And perhaps most importantly, when things get hard, when there is darkness, to remember that there is no light without that darkness. The two must go hand in hand. So we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of all life, creator of fire. And we say amen. And now for me, it wouldn't be a moment of separation or a moment of transition without offering the words of Tfilat Haderech, the words from our blessing for travelers. May you be blessed as you go on your way. May you be guided in peace. May you be blessed with health and joy. And may this be our blessing. Amen. May you be sheltered by the wings of peace. May you be kept in safety and love. May grace and compassion find their way to every soul. May this be your blessing. May this be all of our blessings. May we be blessed by your gifts to this world. And we all say, Amen. I pass it back.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Esther Letterman. That was beautiful. May we all be blessed by the gifts that you bring to all of us. Thank you. So I am going to turn now to a presentation of and by our core members. As many of you know, the service year is an intensive year with many layers. Our participants are working full-time at social justice, anti-poverty organizations. They're living together in community. They're learning about poverty and systems of injustice in this country, and they are exploring the ways their Jewish identity connects them to this work. I want to honor how much work it takes for each of you to engage in all these layers and to do it with so much dedication and openness to growing and learning. We're about to hear from a core member from each of our cities who will be speaking about each of these pillars that I just mentioned. Mandy Peskin in DC will be speaking on community. Elizabeth Wenger in Chicago will be speaking on programming and learning. Ariel Sabat in New York City will discuss the Jewish identity piece. And finally, Emma Fisher in New Orleans will talk about service. So Mandy, I'm handing it off to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mandy. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I've spent this year in the DC cohort, and it's great to have you all here. 10 months ago, I sat in a circle in the Farragut living room during what would be the first of many of the Avodah staple, the infamous house meeting. Surrounded by 12 almost complete strangers, I was astounded by how we spent almost 5 hours discussing everything ranging from sleeping arrangements to kashrut, to bathroom usage, and of course, the elephant in the room, COVID-19. If someone told me after that mentally and emotionally draining meeting that those strangers would become some of my closest friends, I probably would have said something on the lines of, "You've got to be kidding me, right?" But using a little stronger language. That said, here I am 10 months later, sitting in the same room as that first house meeting, surrounded by my friends at graduation, completely in denial that the people I've worked next to, eaten with, late nighted with, and conversed with many hours into the night will no longer be just a knock on the door away. Talk about separation anxiety. Even though this isn't my first time moving away from friends, this time feels different. I don't really know how to explain it. Maybe it was being stuck with these people for a majority of the year, unable to leave our house. Shout out to the protocol. May she rest in peace. Maybe it's the fact that we spent the year literally side by side, finding ways to navigate and cope with work that frequently exposed very systemic problems that countless people face. It's very intense. Or maybe it's that somehow we're just a group of people who got lucky and meshed pretty darn well. But I feel like I've developed closer friendships with people in Avodah over the span of 1 year than I did in my 4 years of college. Looking around this room of lovely people, knowing how in little over a week, these people will no longer be my everyday, I am trying to focus on all the fun and ridiculous moments we've shared. Driving an hour for Dairy Queen on a Saturday night and arriving minutes before closing, throwing a Dolly Parton themed party on the icon's birthday, and navigating a dynamic where somehow everyone has acid reflux and or IBS. When I asked my housemates what comes to mind when they hear the word community, they said intention, comfort, friendship, support system, collaboration, connectedness, and constant adventure. I'm thankful Avodah gave us a space where we could foster our own community that I know will be long lasting. Now I'm going to hand it over to Elizabeth Winger in Chicago.
Thank you, Mandy. Hello, I am Winger. I am from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I am in the Chicago Bite. This is my speech. A section of Pirkei Avot is often quoted thusly: Study is not the most important thing, but actions. The second part of that quote is often left off. It reads, "Whoever indulges in too many words brings about sin." So I suppose it is a good thing my speech has been limited to 4 minutes, which I've calculated gives me about 600 words, and I've just used 67 of them. So I'll begin. Giving a graduation speech is an odd thing, because most speeches take an individual experience and boil it down to a more generalized and narrativized story, something with a lesson in it, or perhaps some gem of wisdom gained in one's time learning at one institution or another. Well, I'll start by saying I can offer no wisdom, and if there's one thing I've learned in Avodah, it is that one should only speak from personal experience. I've been given the topic learning, which seems fitting because we Jews are always saying we're the people of the book. But learning in Avodah is much different than learning at a school, since there is, strictly speaking, no one Avodah for dummies sort of text to turn to. What we did learn, we learned mostly from each other, especially in a year when due to a raging pandemic, we core members could really only see one another. And to see each other, we did, through a cold and claustrophobic winter. We learned mostly about one another and through trial and error about how to live together, how to make this space something close to a home for the 16 different, sometimes irritable, tired, hungry, anxious, sometimes happy, caring, loving folks which filled it. Through this all, I learned that no two Jews are alike, which means 16 of us can have 16 different ideas about what olive oil we should purchase with the house money. If the Torah said, use olive oil, the first housemate would explain, and by this, God meant extra virgin. The second housemate would go further, but when money is tight, you can surely use an olive oil blend. And the third would elaborate, God decreed to use olive oil not when you cook, but when topping something off, because surely God knows olive oil is a finishing oil. But this is the part of the speech where I return to my opening source, Pirkei Avot. Study is not the most important thing, but actions. Many of us came here having just graduated college, studying systems of oppression, and becoming filled with the sort of revolutionary fervor only the clean-cut stories found in books can stir. But in our jobs, we found the complications of real life and of making change. Through action, through praxis, we discovered that to read about empathy is one thing, but to practice it daily is another. But practice and repetition is what service is about. At our jobs, we practice case management, legal aid, healthcare, resource advocacy, and more. At home, we practiced, or at least tried our best to practice, compassion for one another, even when we were at our wits' end. As with many experiences, it is difficult to say what we learned while we are so close to this year and the difficulties and joys that came with it. One thing I'm sure of, the lessons we've taken from this year will show up in our lives going forward as we build new communities, connect with old ones, and continue to put into action all that it means to serve. And now I'm going to pass it over to Ariel Sabat in New York.
Thanks, Wenger. Hi, everyone. My name is Ariel, and I am speaking to you from Brooklyn, New York, representing my cohort and sharing my reflections on how this year has impacted my Jewish identity and sense of community. What does it mean to create a Jewish community? This question is one our cohorts were challenged to answer and ultimately enact. The Jewish community, referring to the entirety of the Jewish people, is far vaster than I thought possible and far more difficult to characterize. There is no one way to be Jewish, but through study, self-exploration, and perhaps most importantly, community, we can forge our own Jewish path. In my cohort, we found ourselves itching for space to dialogue, ask questions, and bring forth texts. In late spring, my roommates and I began casual Saturday afternoon text studies. Self-led and open to every tangent we encountered, our community began to transform with this intentionality. In our first Shabbat Chavruta, partnered learning, I shared a quote I found in my Siddur, or prayer book, from artist Marc Chagall. Coincidentally, I had just run a program for my clients and teen interns at my placement of Dorot on the Jewish aspect of Chagall's work. The quote is as follows: "We are not a people that dies. I know it is difficult to find the balm which would heal our body and our soul, but perhaps it will do us good if we kindle freely the lights of our own treasures and then sing freely in all the hues with which they were born. They will follow us in this world as a shadow that is no shadow at all, It is the Jew within us. It becomes abundantly clear that the freer we are, the more Jewish we are. And the more Jewish we are, the more human we become. This quote we discussed speaks to each of our journeys to bring our whole selves to our Judaism. It encourages us not to hide the darker parts of ourselves, for we all have shadows. The Jewish people, after all we have suffered, carry the weight of our ancestral history into everything we do today and will do in the future. The more we accept our shadows and the prouder we are of our whole selves, the freer we become to be our best selves. For me, this exploration has shaped my trajectory in a very literal way. The Jewish learning my cohort members and I initiated ignited a continued thirst in me for more. After this year, I'll continue my Jewish education in New York City at the Jewish Theological Seminary, pursuing a master's degree in Jewish gender and women's studies. Though I knew it before Avodah, now I say it with a ferocity. There is no one way to be Jewish or to practice Judaism. Through each moment of difficulty in my Jewish journey this year, there was always someone in my cohort to validate how I felt and reaffirm the way we choose to observe and honor traditions, which is why I complete this year knowing without question that Judaism is not something you can do alone. With that, I am excited to introduce Emma Fisher from New Orleans. Thank you.
Thanks, Ariel. Hey, y'all, my name is Emma, and it is my honor to represent the New Orleans cohort in this space. In preparing for graduation, I was asked to consider how Avodah has impacted my understanding of service. After being a part of the Jewish Service Corps for the last year, you would think it'd be easy. Fortunately, nothing is ever as easy as it seems. There's an old Martin Luther King Jr. quote that often gets pulled out by service organizations. Everyone can be great because anybody can serve. I've heard this dozens of times throughout the years at volunteer events, conferences, and more. If you know me, you know that I believe that context is everything, so I'd like to share the rest of the quote. Anybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and your verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. I came into Avodah, as I think many do, with an understanding of service as being a specific set of tasks with a finite end. An afternoon at the community garden, a canned goods drive, tutoring. What I've learned, however, is that service is really a state of being. At my placement, the First 72 Plus, we are grounded in the idea of us helping us. That is, that everything that we do is by the community for the community. When the First 72 Plus was founded 7 years ago, we didn't have a fraction of the resources we have now. It was just one of our co-founders, Ben Smith, in his van, picking up guys from Angola and bringing them back to New Orleans, taking them to get IDs, find jobs, and more. Ben's work was a labor of love and also one of necessity. It was born of his love for his community and his knowledge that if he didn't do the work, it simply wouldn't get done. Help was not going to come. This work isn't easy. It's hard and it's messy, and it comes home with you at the end of the day in a way you don't realize until it's 4 a.m. and you're half awake composing emails in your head to send the next day. It can feel at times that the entire world rests on the shoulders of one caseworker, one employee, or even one intern. It's easy to get caught up in the notion that only our contributions matter, and even easier to lose sight of the larger picture of the communities we're here to serve. Successful service and servant leadership requires a number of things, but mostly they require the knowledge that you are not going to save the world. Work done in service of one's ego is oftentimes worse than no work being done at all. The only thing that makes service worthwhile is the people you do it for and the people you do it with. The relationships that we have and the relationships that we develop are what sustains us. Without the love and guidance of my coworkers, supervisors, and housemates, I would have lost my way and burnt out a long time ago. We are never going to save the world. We are never going to complete the work. But we are also not alone in our pursuit for a better world. Committing oneself to service, whether it be for a year or for a lifetime, is committing oneself to community. It may not be the community that you grew up in or one you're familiar with in any way. But if you love it, and if you let it love you, there's a chance you may be able to do some real good in this world. Thanks.
Please keep giving shout outs, reactions, and love to our core member speakers, to their housemates in the chat. And I want to say thank you, Mandy and Wenger and Ariel and Emma, for sharing parts of your stories and your insights into this year. This has been a year unlike any other in Avodah, and our core members have continued to show up with strength, dedication, commitment, and compassion at each step along the way. My name is Abby Cortrin, and I'm Avodah's Assistant National Program Director. I'm also an Avodah alum from 2011-2012 here in Chicago, and it's my honor tonight to officially welcome our newest generation of core members into the alumni community. In order to do this, I want to share a variation of a ritual that I do yearly with my friends that came from one of my Avodah housemates. So this ritual was originally one for birthdays. I view ritual as something that marks time, honors what our next steps look like. So in celebrating this special transition for all of our core members, I would like to offer you 3 highlights from our alumni community and 3 things that I hope you will look forward to by being an Avodah alum for life. So first, highlights of what alumni have gotten from the community over the last many years. The first is lasting relationships, not only with people in your cohort over the years, but those in years before and after you who are always there to lend a favorite recipe, a picnic blanket, or a favorite local hang when you're in need. Second is a community upon moving to a new city or even reinvesting in your Avodah city once things start opening up. Whether it is kickball games, Shabbat potlucks, or clothing swaps, there's always a way to connect to one another and make a new home feel less daunting if you need a friend. And finally, opportunities to continue learning and growing with each other as you reach different stages of life, be it retreats, workshops, teaching opportunities, or one-on-one mentorship. The alumni community is always growing together and looking to build on the foundation that the Service Corps year has given us. And now, as if that wasn't enough to look forward to, a few more things that should be coming your way. The first, gathering with each other and generations of alumni to celebrate Shabbat, and then getting to go home to your own home with a bed the size of your choosing and a kitchen set up just the way you and maybe only 1 or 2 housemates like it. Your weekly notes are now replaced by a listserv that you can put into digest mode. If you need help, please let me know. With 1,400 other alumni, you can expect an array of opportunities and experiences that are comforting, thought-provoking, might make you smile, and otherwise keep you informed of the powerful network of Jewish justice leaders that Avodah inspires. And finally, in 5 to 10 years, you too could be renting a group home together at a campsite to go to one of your former things, all the while feeling nostalgic for rice and lentils and group menu planning. And without skipping a beat, you know exactly how many cloves of garlic or cans of beans you'll need for a pre-wedding dinner. There's so many more things that the alumni community has to offer, and I want to encourage our alumni on the call, especially to post highlights and welcomes in the chat. But in the meantime, welcome to the alumni community from me and from alumni across the country who are excited to continue to be in relationship with you all and celebrate all that you've done this year and for you will do for years to come. Roll the tape.
Congratulations on finishing your Avodah year and welcome to the Avodah alumni community.
Mazel Tov, you've completed what was hopefully a very meaningful and likely very challenging year. Wishing you nothing but the best in your future endeavors, and I hope that you're able to carry with you some of the learning and growth and friendships and connections that you made during your time in the program. And welcome to the alumni community.
Congratulations on finishing your year! Welcome to the alumni community!
Mazel Tov from Vermont Avodah cohort. Just wanted to tell you I'm grateful to be an Avodonic for life because of the community and networks it has provided me in my career.
Congratulations, Mazel Tov, for completing a year of Avodah service. I'm so excited to see where you go next on your journey, and I wish you all the best of luck.
From all of us on the West Coast, welcome to the alumni community.
Welcome to the Avodah alumni community. We're happy to have you.
Welcome to the Avodah alumni community. We are stoked to have you. For me, being an alumni of Avodah means being connected to my Jewish community and to Jewish spirituality, and that has been great as I have pursued justice in the labor movement.
Welcome to the Avodah alumni community. You've planted so many seeds this year of justice and learning and connections, and I know you're just going to keep seeing those seeds fruit and flower for the rest of your careers and your lives. Congratulations and welcome again.
Shalom, everybody. Avodonics, it's so great to be here with you. It's bittersweet. I'm proud of you. I'm moved by you. Every time we've learned together, I feel that I've grown from you as well. My name is Aryeh Bernstein. I'm Avodah's National Jewish Educator, and I've had the joy this year of learning a lot of Torah, not just with the Chicagoans, but also with everybody. So much inspiration and so much heartbreak in our work and the work that you all do in your placements. We're departing a womb, a year of nurturing direct embrace with each other in your batim, and continuing our work. We sometimes might need extra articulation. What are we working toward? The other thing, the vision that can be the embrace, the womb to protect our work. What does it mean to believe that we will win, and what can anchor us? So because as those of us who have ever seen a movie or read a novel know, it can be helpful to work through and process abstract ideas through personification. So let's talk about the Messiah. Talmud teaches that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said to Elijah the prophet, "When's the Messiah going to come?" He said, "Go ask him." He said, "Well, where is he sitting?" And Elijah said, "At the entrance of the city." Rabbi Yeshua said, "Well, how will I identify the Messiah?" Elijah said, "Messiah sits among the poor suffering from illnesses. All of them are unwrapping and rewrapping their bandages all at once. But the Messiah unwraps and rewraps one at a time, saying, 'Perhaps I'll be needed, so I don't want to be delayed.'" Redemption is led, this little anecdote teaches us, by those most affected by our society's ills, and by those proximate, those who actively place themselves proximate to those ills, as Cheryl taught in the name of Brian Stevenson, who live in real solidarity and readiness for changing paradigms. I'm so moved by how all of you do that. I bless you to continue to make yourselves proximate to each other and to people directly impacted by the ills of this world, and that we are the change that we seek to bring in the world. Happy to have you in the alumni community. Mazel tov.
Thank you, Aryeh. That was beautiful. I really appreciate those words. You're sharing those words with everyone. I just want to note, as we're about to go into breakout rooms, that we have seen the most beautiful notes from family members that started this program, and so many of you are here. From placements, from supervisors or other people at placements. I've been watching the scroll from so many people who are here, core members for you and because of you. So thank you all for being here. For DC, I mean, I've seen so many advisory council and board members. It's really incredible to see all of you here to celebrate. So we are going to be concluding the national portion of our program right now, and we're going to move into breakout rooms to celebrate our local cohorts. We're not going to be coming back together nationally as a group. So I really just want to say thank you. Thank you, core members, for your hard and inspiring work this year. As Aryeh said, I am moved as well. Thank you to our wider community, families, friends, placements, donors, supporters in the room. This work happens also because of you, and our community is more vibrant and impactful because of you. And with that, you're going to see a pop-up on your screen with the option to transport yourself to Chicago, to New York, to New Orleans, to DC. It's the quickest flight you'll ever have. Please choose the breakout room that makes the most sense for you. And if you don't see a pop-up or you're having any kind of trouble, hang here and staff members will stay in the main space to help you get where you want to go. Thank you.